Right then, what system got you back into gaming? This is a really good question by Dave, Lawn Boys Post 1975. And it's a really interesting answer as well. Well, I think it is. Whether you find it interesting or not is a different kettle of fish. But it's funny because if you'd have asked me this question as recently as, I don't know, a week ago, or maybe less, whenever, Dave put his vid up, I would always have said, the system that got me back into gaming would have been the Xbox 360. And I would have based that on the fact that, around about the turn of the millennium, 2002, 2003, I wasn't really playing that many games. I did have a PlayStation 2, I did have an Xbox, around that period in time, but I wasn't really playing them. In fact, the only real time that they ever got any action, so to speak, was when my friends came round and we played multiplayer games, the Pro Evolution, maybe the Burnout game, or Burnout games had been out by that time, whatever else. But I didn't really buy games myself. I wasn't really buying magazines. When it came to the internet, I wasn't checking out gaming information. I wasn't on YouTube then. Was YouTube even around 2003? I'm sure it was, but I didn't know of it. And so, yeah, I can't stress how far away removed I was from gaming circles. Like I said, I did have a couple of systems, but I wasn't really playing them, and I wasn't really picking up a game. Maybe once in a blue moon if it was really cheap, but I didn't know what was coming out. I just completely, lost interest, really. And all my time was being spent, watching bands play, music bands, of course. I was playing the guitar I still am, but playing the guitar a lot then. I was going to a lot of football games, so all my money was kind of being taken up with that. So gaming very much took a back seat. But like I say, I would have thought up until the other day it would be the 360, because I remember in 2005-ish, I was in HMV in Oxford, and funnily enough, just looking at music CDs, and I walked past the computer game section, and I thought, well, seeing as I'm here, let's have a little bit of a look to see what's going down, what's the score with all these new systems and stuff. And there was a booth there, an Xbox 360 one, and I didn't know what a 360 was. I just didn't have a clue because I was completely out of the loop. And I thought, well, this looks unbelievable. And it was Call of Duty 2 that was playing, a specific level in Call of Duty 2 involving the British Army in the desert. I've touched upon this before when I did a Call of Duty 2, was it a gameplay or an online thing? Maybe it was both, I can't remember, ages ago. Anyway, so I there's no one else on this booth, and I picked up the controller, I played on it for just about 5-10 minutes, and I was like, this is amazing, I've got to get this. And that's when I got back into gaming, because I then, a few months later, got a 360. So that would have been my answer. However, after watching Dave's vid, it became strikingly apparent that we share enormous responsibilities. Responsibilities? Where did that word come from? We do share enormous responsibilities. That's nothing to do with it. We share enormous similarities. Responsibilities, brilliant. Similarities in the fact that it's actually the Sony PlayStation. And watching Dave's video unfold was unreal, because it was almost kind of just a carbon copy of, well, to a degree, of what happened with me. So, but still, I'll give you my take on it. And yeah, if you go back to 1993, for Christmas I got Sega Mega Drive, a Sega Mega Drive 2 with Aladdin. Brilliant console, brilliant memories, and all the rest of it. So obviously throughout the latter part of 1993 Christmas time, and all of 1994, pretty much all of 1994, certainly 3/4 of it, I was massively into the Mega Drive. I absolutely loved it. I was buying a lot of games when I had the money, of course, and it was a great system. It was there permanently set up on display. I would play it with me just single player. When friends came round, we'd play multiplayer. It was a brilliant, brilliant system. But then I kind of lost interest a little bit in late 94, and I think it's because I started college. So when, you go back to full-time education, and you've got less time, or some may say you've got more time to piss about, I don't know. But I kind of had less time, because I had outside activities as well. The football, I was playing football, I was still going to the football, sometimes travelling the length and breadth of the country to go and watch games, stupidly in hindsight. But, the memories are great, what can I say? And music, massively into music. This was around about the time for me where Britpop, the Britpop scene, the Britpop movement, was just getting ready to properly explode, it really was, and take over the world. Or so it seemed at the time. And I was no different. I was at the perfect age, or I thought I was, like 16, 17. And yeah, I was just fully into it. In everything about it, I was just kind of like living that scene, that movement, if you like. And so I was massively into music, way more into music than games. Games had taken a backseat big time. And so yeah, that was all of 1994. Like I said, I was going to gigs and doing all that kind of stuff. And then fast forward to early 95. In fact, what I did just before I started this video, I did a little Google search for an image of this magazine, and I found it. Whether it shows up well or not, I'm not sure, but I'll show it in a second. In fact, I'll show it now. A bit of a jump cut. Let's show it now. So as you would have seen there, Edge, issue number 17, 1995, with a Sony PlayStation on the front. Now, I remember this like it was yesterday. I know we always come out with those kind of cliches. I really do remember it very, very well. So it would have been January/February time. I know the magazine was February time, but sometimes it comes out a little bit earlier. So it was either January or February of 1995, and we're in college. The teacher, the lecturer, whoever it was there giving their little their talk, their spiel, and we weren't really listening. Too busy chattering away. But a friend of mine next to me, Jason, not next to me here, obviously he's not there at the time. He pulls out, he leans down towards his bag. He goes, "I've got something to show you." "Oh, what's this?" And he pulls out a magazine. That magazine that you just saw, Edge, issue 17, 1995, February. And he pulled it out, and he went, "Oh, you want to check this out?" And I looked at the front, and it had the picture of the PlayStation. And I started to laugh. I went, "Well, PlayStation? Sony are coming out with a system?" I had no idea. This machine had already been released, 3 months previous in Japan? I had no clue. Why would I? I'd lost touch with gaming. I didn't have a clue what was going on. And he's like, "Yeah, it's meant to be the next, best thing. Best thing since sliced bread." And I just looked at it and I went, "It looks rubbish." And we flicked through the magazine, and there was kind of the specs of the specs of the system, close-ups of what it looked like. And again, I remember like it was yesterday, absolutely, I couldn't stop laughing. Genuinely, it was hilarious. I thought, and said at the time, it looked like a Fisher-Price toy. Now, anyone who knows what Fisher-Price is, it's just, it's a toy. Toys made for kids out of like cheap kind of plastic, and they're kind of essentially no frills and quite basic, or they were from when I remember them as a kid anyway. And this PlayStation, to me, looked like a Fisher-Price toy. It was quite basic, the little round lid, you press the big round button on like a toy, and it slowly comes up, and then you put the disc in, and I thought, this looks ridiculous. So like I said, I was mocking it, calling it like a Fisher-Price toy, and saying how it looked rubbish, and my friend's like, "Well, you say that now, but there's some really good games, have a look at it." So we flicked through the rest of the mag, and admittedly, again, I remember it like it was yesterday, I was saying, well, yeah, the games look quite nice, but look at the system, it's a mess. I'm not buying that. A reputation at stake. Can't be seen with one of them things. Imagine your friends come round, you've got like a Fisher-Price toy there, crazy. So I had my teeth stuck into that Fisher-Price tag, I wouldn't let go, and I thought it was rubbish. I didn't want to know about the Sony PlayStation. In fact, as I said, I didn't want to know about games in general. I kind of moved away from them, really. It was something I used to do, I enjoyed it. I still had the Mega Drive, still occasionally played it, but I wasn't really into it anymore, certainly in comparison anyway. So fast forward the following month, and Jason brings in another magazine, another Edge magazine, and we looked through, and again he's like, "Well, maybe this will change your mind this time, look at these games." And again I was like, "Well, it looks quite good, to be fair, but still I'm not having it now." Another month goes by, he brings in another magazine, by which time, I'm fast forwarding a few months now, it's kind of March, April, May, June time, and each month he's trying to convince me that the Sony PlayStation is a brilliant bit of kit and I should get one. And each month I'm kind of going, "No, I just don't want one. It looks good." However, inwardly, I knew that slowly but surely my mind was being changed, because each month these games are looking bloody amazing. I mean, they looked fantastic. And of course, I loved music back then, obviously still do and always will. But this was the perfect blend, because you could have a CD, which is what I was buying for my music CDs, but you had the CD or the game on a CD, and it was obviously, music quality, CD quality, and you can have like full tracks on there. So he was trying to say that to me, going, "Oh, well, look, you're a big music fan. This is kind of..." Rudely interrupted by the postman. Outrageous. So, but he did bring a couple of games, funny enough, from Amazon. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, as the weeks go by, get a few more games, and then maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks I'll do another pickup vid. So, but anyway, more importantly, where was I? I think I was talking about Jason and my friend, and every month he was like kind of showing me Edge magazine and saying, oh, you've got to get the PlayStation because it's brilliant, you know. And as each month was going by, I don't know, I just wasn't really convinced, but I was getting to that stage where I was starting to be more, it was appealing to me that little bit more, you know. I guess because, you know, the games came on a CD, which was relatively, it wasn't the first time, but it was relatively kind of unique, and I was buying music CDs at that time, so it was like, well, you can get a game, and it comes on a CD, which is what I like, and it's music, CD quality, of course, full tracks. It's like the perfect match, isn't it? You know, it's kind of crossing the divide. It's gaming, it's music, they're coming together, it's by Sony, it can't really go wrong. So I'm coming more and more around to the idea that this PlayStation is going to be fantastic. So fast forward from, you know, early to mid 1995, and let's fast forward to, you know, give or take, let's say October of 1995, the same year. We'll just fast forward in a few months. Now, I remember being in W.H. Smith's, which is like, you know, I'm sure you're all aware, obviously, like a newsagents of sorts, I guess. Magazines, DVDs, you know, games, whatever else for that matter. And I was looking at magazines such as NME, Melody Maker, Select Magazine, I think Vox was still out back then, Q perhaps, all the music magazines, you know. Even though I was kind of coming around to getting a PlayStation, I still wasn't really playing the Mega Drive. Just now and again, you know, when friends came around, I was loving it, but only with friends, multiplayer. You know, other than that, I just wasn't really bothering. I was still in my musical zone, still going to the football, still buying CDs, still going to a lot of gigs. That's how I was living my life back then. That's all I was doing. But by chance, out of the corner of my eye, when I was reading either NME or Melody Maker, I noticed the official PlayStation magazine, and it struck a chord. Because I'd not really, you know, or not really spoken or talked at all about the PlayStation for 2 or 3 months. And, you know, I guess the summer holidays from college and all the rest of it, we just had other things to do and other things to talk about. And it rang a bell. I thought, hang on, PlayStation? I remember that. That's that system that Jason was trying to get me to buy, which slowly but surely I was coming round to. And if the, you know, the term had gone on even longer, you know, because obviously we broke up for the summer holidays, then he probably would have convinced me, but he didn't, because it kind of ended and then we forgot about it and all the rest of it. So I thought, well, seeing as I'm there, seeing as it's just next to me, let's just pick it up and have a look. What's the harm that can happen? Well, none, obviously, other than buying the system, of course, and costing a fair bit of money. So I put the NME, the Melody Maker, whatever it was down, picked up the Sony PlayStation magazine. I think it was one of the early issues, maybe issue 2 or 3, because remember, the PlayStation in the UK came out in September time. So I'm going to hazard a guess that the official PlayStation magazine debut would have been, at the earliest really, a month before, so August, and this was around about October. So yeah, it could have been issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, one of the early issues of the PlayStation magazine. So I picked it up, and I randomly opened it to, well, obviously a random page. Why do we do that? It's like, there isn't really like a magazine etiquette, is there? Do you ever pick up a magazine and start from page 1? I've never done that in my life. Just pick it up, randomly open it at a page, and then work your way like backward and forward and back and forth like a madman. So anyway, I opened up this magazine, and it arrived on the page of a review for Destruction Derby. And straight away, like within 5 seconds of picking this thing up, I was like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. They give it a really high score, but even if they didn't give it a high score, it looked amazing. And you know, the graphics fantastic. And you know, I was coming from a 16-bit background, of course, with the Atari ST, the Amiga, the Sega Mega Drive, the SNES, and to see Destruction Derby, you know, the 32-bit 3D polygons, it was brilliant, CD sound quality, all that kind of stuff. It blew me away. And funny enough, let me show you a little prop here. There's Destruction Derby. Now this is the PAL copy, which I don't even know. I don't know why I'm showing you the back. I don't know why we, as gamers, show you the back of cases, because you can never bloody work it out. But we do it. Again, etiquette, isn't it? And not just that, but you know what Destruction Derby is. Why do you need to see it? But anyway, yeah, this one was sent to me by Craig, Minx36, last year. Very kind donation. Now, yeah, I saw that game in the magazine, official PlayStation magazine, and I thought, this is just unbelievable. I've got to get one of these. Like I say, it was October time. So I carried on looking through the magazine. From the top of, or off the top of my head and from memory, I think other games which were in that magazine were Toshinden, Battle Arena Toshinden. Was it Rayman, I think? Jumping Jack Flash, possibly. What's the other one? Johnny Bazooka Tone? I might have that completely wrong. It kind of had like a silvery purple case with a bit of green on, was it? I can't remember. But that game was in there, and it looked really interesting. And like I say, the leap from 16-bit graphics up into 32 was phenomenal. It really was. So I made up my mind there and then that once and for all, I was going to get one of these. Thanks to Jason, going back earlier on in the year, who just wouldn't shut up about me getting this PlayStation. But I just kind of put it completely to the back of my mind, and then just by chance saw this in W.H. Smith's, the magazine, and I thought, right, that is it, I'm going to buy one. Oh, sorry, let's go back, rewind. I'm going to get my parents to buy me one at Christmas, my Christmas present. Now, it's funny because I was 17 at the time, and I felt as if I was too old to be asking for like a video game console. Unbelievable, all these years later, and I'm still buying them. But obviously in hindsight, I clearly at 17 wasn't old at all. So now we're going to fast forward a bit up to, from, that was around about October, going to fast forward to Christmas Eve of the same year, but yeah, Christmas Eve. Now, I was walking through, obviously I should say I told my parents, can you get me, or told them, that just doesn't sound right at all. If I'd have told them, they'd have told me to piss off. I asked them if they could get me the Sony PlayStation for Christmas. And, I got good vibes, good feelers from that. So I was pretty convinced I was going to get one. I told them what I wanted to get, what I hoped to get, and they were quite happy to do it. So I was lucky on that front. But it was Christmas Eve, 1995, and I thought, well, what if I don't get any games for it? I'm sure I probably will, maybe just one, but what if I don't get any? Surely I should buy some. I had a bit of money saved up and all the rest of it. And I thought, well, in fact, I'd been paid from a job I had at the time. So, when you're always paid like a couple of days before Christmas, but we were paid right on Christmas Eve. So just went on a massive spend-a-thon, 200 or 300 quid, just pissed it away just like that. It was unbelievable. But I thought, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some PlayStation games. Because, like I say, if I just get the system and no games, I'm going to not have anything to play, and that'll be rubbish. So let's buy some. So I thought, well, what do I buy? Well, clearly the first one I was going to get was this. In fact, I'll tell you the games I got. Well, obviously this is one of them. But I'll tell you the games I got in a minute. Let me just first say that I did get the games from Toys R Us, and that was in the afternoon on Christmas Eve. But in the morning, I was in town doing a bit of shopping, buying other people presents, being a typical guy, leaving it to the very last minute, of course. Christmas Eve. Some things never change. I'm still like that now. I probably always will be. But I do get the job done. Anyway, I digress. I was walking through town, just getting other people presents, and I walked past Game, the computer store. I don't know if Game is still around. I know it had its financial problems going back a year, 6 months, a year, whatever it was. But anyway, it was fine back then anyway. And I remember walking by it. I didn't really have an interest to go in. And I think that's because I knew I was going to Toys R Us later on. So I thought, well, there's no point going in there. However, I heard this huge kind of noise bellowing out from the shop, from the store. And I looked over and I saw what must have been about 20, 25 people, staff, customers, all gathered around this TV, like a screen, I should say. Hanging down from like the wall, I guess. Hanging down from the wall, from the ceiling. And I thought, well, what are they doing? So, curiosity got the better of me. And I walked into the store and kind of, joined the crowd of sheep that had, herded around. And I couldn't, again, believe what I'd seen. If I thought this was amazing when I saw it in the magazine, and that was just a screenshot or screenshots, this was a moving image, and I was absolutely blown away. And it's not going to be the game for everyone. It was FIFA 96, a football game. Now, it wasn't just the fact that the graphics looked good, which they did, the 3D world, and it's fantastic. What absolutely had me astounded, shell-shocked, was the fact that John Motson, who's a commentator in real life, start that again, he was doing the commentary for the game. I'd never seen this before. This is one of our footballing dreams as kids. When me and my friends would talk about what we wanted in games, we always said, oh, wouldn't it be great if they had commentators? Literally just calling out the action as they see it. So-and-so passes to so-and-so, has a shot, welcome to today's game, all these lines and stuff. We thought, wouldn't it be great if that could happen? And here it was, actually happening. I didn't even know of FIFA 96. It wasn't in the magazine that I'd read from, in W.H. Smith's. I hadn't seen it anywhere else. I didn't even know of it. This is the first time I'd seen it or heard it, and I was just gobsmacked. I really was. And I stood there for about 10 minutes thinking, wow, I'm getting that. When I go to Toys R Us later on, I'm getting that game. And so yeah, fast forward later on to that very same day, still Christmas Eve 1995, went to Toys R Us and I bought 3 games. Obviously now you know one of them, FIFA 96, you know the other one, Destruction Derby. I wish I'd have kept my original copy. Maybe it's still in the UK, I doubt it. You don't think of these things, do you, when you're a kid or a young adult? You don't think, oh, one day I'll have a YouTube channel, or one day I'm going to go for a collection. You never really think these things, you just, I don't know. I was really silly, I think, getting rid of all that. But still, I've got it now, and it's the same game, it's just not the one I had. But does it really matter? Well, not really, but I guess it would have been nice. But obviously the next best thing. So yeah, Destruction Derby, FIFA 96, and Loaded. I saw Loaded in the magazine, and it looked bloody brilliant. And the music was by a band called Pop Will Eat Itself, which I wasn't massively into, but I liked a couple of their tracks. So, and I thought that was kind of cool, how it was like a proper band. And I think this is the first time I'd ever seen this. I'm sure it's happened, or it had happened before, but this is the first time where I'd seen a proper band had been in a game with a proper sound. It wasn't like something like, what's that game I saw Pete Snestastic do the other day? Biometal for the SNES, and it's got kind of a rendition, if you like, of No Limits by... Is it No Limits? Oh, no, not No Limits. What is it? I can't remember. I'll put an annotation. There's a 2 Unlimited song anyway, and it's not the actual song, it's like a 16-bit version of it. But this is the proper song on the game. And I just completely... It looked fantastic. So I bought that. I bought them 3 games, and I was as happy as Larry, and all the rest of it. Now, the next morning, Christmas Day arrives, and see, the story doesn't end here. Never would with me. There's always got to be more. Christmas morning arrives, really excited. I'm up at some stupid hour, of course, and wading through all these presents, like, it's like a jungle of Christmas presents. And I didn't want all the stocking fillers. I mean, they're all very nice, and I had to put on a brave face and say, oh, brilliant, thank you. Thanks to Grandma so-and-so, Auntie so-and-so I haven't seen for 55 years. Well, not 55 years, that'd be a bit weird. But you know what I mean. And yeah, all these silly little presents. Some good ones, of course. Like CDs and stuff, which I was really excited about, and all the rest of it. But the one that I really wanted was the PlayStation. And I saw a box which looked like a PlayStation. Imagine if it had been a Sega Saturn. Now, don't get me wrong, I've got a soft spot for the Saturn. I really like it, but I didn't want one back then. I did not want one. I wanted the PlayStation. So I saw what looked like the PlayStation, opened up the box, and tore off the wrapper, and a big grin came on my face because it was the PlayStation. Went to set it up, took all the wires out, connected them all to the TV. Didn't work. I thought, I do not believe this. Tried it several times, still couldn't get it to work. About 2 or 3 hours later, my dad came in from work because he was and still is a policeman. So, they work kind of funny hours and shifts and all that kind of stuff. And he came in and said, well, what's wrong? Can you not get it to work? Because I'm there, wires everywhere. And I'm like, no, I've tried. And he went, well, let me have a look. So he had a look, and he followed the instructions, and he said, no, I don't know what's wrong. Maybe it's something wrong with it. He said, well, what we'll do tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock sharp, Boxing Day, we'll take it back to, funnily enough, Toys R Us, where I'd been the previous day to get the 3 games. And I was really disappointed because, oh, God, all I wanted to do was play this bloody PlayStation. I've got it, it's there, I've got the games, but it's not working. What's going on? Is it the TV, or why can't it tune in? I didn't know what was wrong. So the next morning, 9 o'clock sharp, we're at Toys R Us, along with about another 50 people in the returns queue, who were obviously bringing things back that didn't work. And the funniest thing is, there must have been about 10 other people with PlayStations. So clearly they had the same problem in hindsight, which I'll tell you in a second. But it was just kind of funny to see. It's like every other person was there with a box PlayStation. Like the dad with their son or whatever. And it just made me laugh. And so we got a new one. I remember it again like it was yesterday. I remember it being our turn, and the guy, I remember it like it was yesterday. Now I can't remember if it was a guy or a girl. But either way, the person, the member of staff took it off me, and they said, what's wrong? I said, can't get it to work. And they went, no, okay, no worries, I'll swap it for another one. And I remember them walking off, and I could see them in the background, getting a new one. And that was that. And they brought out a replacement, took it back home, and we were like, right, this is going to be it. I say we, my dad didn't care. He's not a fan of gaming, of course. But I was like, this is it, now it's going to work. I can finally, 24 hours later, play my actual PlayStation. And plugged it in, didn't work. I couldn't believe it. And we tried it again and again. By this time, it's kind of like lunchtime on Boxing Day. And this is just unbelievable. This is going beyond, coincidental. What is going on here? And my dad said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll call the hotline, the Sony hotline, because it says if there's any problems, give them a call. So my dad calls them up, and straight away, the guy on the other end kind of stopped my dad mid-sentence. And he went, he said, I know what the problem is. I know what the problem is. He says, everybody's calling up about this. If he had £1 for the amount of people that had called him that morning, I'd be a millionaire. That kind of cliche that comes out. And the issue was, if anyone remembers, and I'm kind of struggling to remember, but I think there was like the 3 composite leads. It was on a little kind of, almost like a SCART lead, kind of shape. And you plugged it back into the PlayStation, obviously the original model anyway. And when you plug it in, it makes a little bit of a noise, like a click. So you think you've done it, but you haven't. You've got to push it in even further, at least on this early batch anyway. So apparently the guy was saying that everyone's calling in because the people at home who have bought this are thinking they've done it fine. They think they've clicked it in, but it's not working. But what you've got to do, you've got to put it in even more. It'll feel like you're breaking it apparently, but the guy said, just keep trying it. So the guy's still talking to my dad on the other end of the line, while my dad's talking to me to tell me what to do. And he said, well, to push that thing in. So I kind of pushed the SCART composite thing in. And I said, right, I heard the click. And he went, right, push it a little bit more. And I started, it feels like the bloody thing's going to snap. Remember, this Fisher-Price toy really made out of plastic, like basic plastic. And I went, it's going to break. I can feel it's going to snap in my hands. And the guy was insistent. He was like, well, no, just push it in. And so I did. I kind of like sort of looked away as I did it, expecting the thing to explode or something. And it clicked again. It made like a double click. And as soon as that happened, instantly on the screen, PlayStation. Unbelievable. And so that was that. We didn't need the guy anymore. Thank you very much for your help. And then I could play all my games. But before I played the games, I played the demo one. Was it demo one? I think it was the demo that came with it, which I think was called Demo 1. And it had like a tech demo of like a 3D walking dinosaur, and you could move its feet and its mouth, I think. There was another one with, was it shark or fish or a dolphin? I can't remember, but that was an impressive kind of display as well. I remember the music being really kind of nice and relaxing. And then on top of that, you had demos on there, such as ESPN Extreme Games and several other stuff, which I can't remember off the top of my head. Now, I do still have that actual literal demo disc. At least, even though I ultimately sold my PS1 or my PlayStation, I'm going to stop calling it a PS1. It's a PlayStation. There's PlayStation, PS2, PS3. From this moment onwards, PlayStation, not PS1. Even though I've just said it again there. But you know what I mean. That's my second rude interruption. First it was a postman, then it was the telephone. Unbelievable. But I'm not doing this video again because, firstly, it'll take 20 odd minutes. And secondly, there's no guarantee I wouldn't get interrupted again, so sorry about the jump cuts, but what can you do? But yeah, I was talking about the Demo 1 disc, wasn't I, that came with the PlayStation. And I've still got it. And it's one of my prized possessions, it really is. Now, I've got it in the UK, I don't have it here. But yeah, I just remember at the time, even though I sold my PlayStation in around about 97, 98, I at least had the nous, the nostalgia nous, to keep that demo disc. And yeah, I'm really pleased I did that. It's just ultimately just a little card. Well, it's sort of in a case, but like a card sort of case, a fold-open, gatefold kind of thing, if you like. And yeah, it's in good condition. It's not mint, but it's one of my prized possessions when it comes to video games, which is a little bit silly, of course. But I just think because of the memory, or memories, and the nostalgia it gives me, kind of looking at it, thinking to that very day when we were struggling to put the bloody PlayStation together. And that is the Demo 1 disc from that day. So I'm pleased I've kept it. And at some stage in the future, you'll see it on, pick-up videos and room tours or all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm going to have to get that sent over. But yeah, the PlayStation, it's an absolutely brilliant system. And throughout the rest of 95, Christmas, New Year 95, all of 96, all of 97, or pretty much all of 97, and a little bit of 98, I was absolutely in love with the PlayStation. I really was. I mean, every week I would buy a game, and I'm not even exaggerating. Every week I would buy a game, sometimes 2 games, brand new as well. I was just a lunatic when it comes to spending money. And I was continuing to go to the football. I was going to live gigs, music-wise. I was buying a lot of CDs. I mean, I didn't have any real responsibilities or ties back then because, you know, I was living with my parents, so aside from a little bit of money I'd give them at the end of the month, the rest of it was up to me. You know, I didn't have to pay the rent or anything like that, and I could just spend the money on what I wanted, and I just lived the life of Riley. I really did, and just spent money like it was going out of fashion. I didn't have anything to show at the end of the week. It was all spent, but I had a good time, so that's all that counts. But yeah, I bought so many PlayStation games. I mean, I took a punt on games like Skeleton Warriors for 50 quid. Defcon 5, I remember buying that for 50 quid. Absolutely bollocks. Psychic Detective, 50 quid. Although that's worth a good 20 quid, I reckon. But still, not 50, which is what I paid. And I just, if a game looked interesting, I'd buy it. So yeah, the PlayStation for me is one of my favourite memories of gaming. Now, after sort of 97, 98, I don't think I played a PlayStation game. Not an original PlayStation game. I just lost touch with the system. I guess the N64 came out, and then after that the Dreamcast came out, and then after that it would have been the PS2 and the Xbox, which is when I had my kind of initial lull in gaming, which I referred to at the start of the vid. But yeah, no, my first proper break from gaming, I guess, would have been the story I've just told. And it would have been the Sony PlayStation that introduced me, or reintroduced me, to gaming, you know, inspired that passion back, if you like, reignited the flame, as it were. And so, yeah, thanks to Dave for doing his vid, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have forgotten, you know, the stories in my head. I mean, I can always remember them. But I just never really put all the pieces together before. And I just presumed that it was the 360 that got me back into gaming. But, well, which it kind of did, but earlier, you know, before that, it would have been the Sony PlayStation. So anyway, if you want to do a response to this, whether you want to make it shorter than this or not is up to you. This has gone on quite a while. Or whether you want to make it longer. Your video, your rules, do what you want. But yeah, please do that. But of course do it to Dave's vid, because he's the one who came up with the tag, it's his idea, and all the rest of it. And I'll put a link to his video below, so if you haven't seen it, give it a watch. Because even though it talks about the Sony PlayStation, it's obviously Dave's experiences, which are completely different, although they do share similarities, but ultimately completely different to mine. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry about the 2, or was it even 3 jump cuts in the end, I can't remember. But yeah, I'd like to see your videos. See you later.